Usually, when we talk about global economic systems, you sort of have this expectation of spreadsheets.
Right. Yeah. Lots of math.
Exactly. It's treated like physics, you
Yeah.
know? Supply goes up, demand goes down, the GDP shifts, and the economists just point to a chart and say, well, there it is, math.
We definitely prefer our financial systems to be quantifiable. I mean, it feels safe when everything can be perfectly categorized into, you know, assets, liabilities, quarterly projections.
Yeah, but then you step into the framework we are unpacking today for this deep dive, and suddenly that spreadsheet is just torn to shreds.
Completely.
We are looking at a financial landscape that, well, it's not about dollars and cents at all. It is actually pitched as the infrastructure for a massive spiritual moral
Which
test.
is a wild concept to wrap your
It's,
head around.
it really is. So today we are pulling from this fascinating transcript from the YouTube channel NAGA No Filter. And we want to answer this really mind-bending question for you. What if the money in your bank account, or, the lack of it, was just a temporary phase in a cosmic sorting mechanism?
Yeah, and the mission for this deep dive is to explore this source's blueprint for what they call a divine plan. It outlines this grand transition for humanity, moving out of a scarcity-driven reality, which they call the beast system, and into a new Earth.
A new Earth governed entirely by universal natural law.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because at the very center of this transition is this stark contrast the source draws between two distinct concepts. So you have universal basic income, or UBI, functioning as a baseline for survival,
Right.
versus universal high income, UHI, which acts as a reward system for like high frequency moral behavior.
But before we can even begin to understand how that new economic structure functions, we have to look at the massive catalyst the source claims sets it all in motion.
The big event.
Right. The transcript refers to an event called the reverse rapture.
Now, hold on. Because the word rapture carries so much cultural baggage, I mean, usually the traditional narrative is that the world goes to hell and the good people are miraculously airlifted out to paradise, right?
Right. But the source actually redefines the concept by looking at the etymology of the word itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The root meaning of rapture is actually associated with a kidnapping or a carrying away or a theft. Historically, it does not have a positive connotation at all. So the speaker in the transcript argues that it is actually the negative entities we're talking, murderers, pedophiles, genuinely malevolent individuals who are the ones being raptured or forcefully removed.
Which completely flips the script. I mean, in most lore, paradise is an escape pod for the righteous. But this source argues that Earth is the paradise. It's just currently infested.
That's a great way to put it.
And you don't abandon your house because of termites. You remove the termites.
Exactly. They are taken out of this reality and sent to another realm or dimension to work out their evolution and face their karma.
Leaving the rest of us behind.
Right, leaving the rest of humanity behind to rebuild the house. And the immediate aftermath of this massive clearing event is the implementation of universal basic income across the globe.
And the source mentions this might be connected to something called Nisara Gasara, right? I've seen this term thrown around in fringe economic forums. It's usually tied to theories about returning to a gold standard or, like, initiating a massive global debt jubilee.
Yeah, it pops up a lot. The source frames it as a necessary economic bridge. I mean, you cannot just flip a switch and transition humanity from predatory capitalism into a spiritually elevated society overnight.
Right, that would just be chaos.
Total chaos. You need a mechanism to clear the old debt slavery. So the UBI introduced here is not presented as some final socialist utopia. It's described more as a systematic weaning off the old beast system.
It's designed to create a completely level playing field, so every single person is provided with enough food, healthcare, and resources to comfortably survive.
And the psychological mechanism at play here is honestly brilliant.
Yeah.
By giving everyone exactly what they need to survive, you fundamentally eliminate the victim excuse.
Oh, wow.
Because in the old system, if someone lied or cheated or stole, they could always rationalize it to themselves or society. They could say, well, I had to do it to feed my family. Or the system is rigged against me, so I had to bend the rules to survive.
It is like turning on God mode in a survival video game.
Totally.
Like, if your health and hunger meters are permanently full, you no longer have any logistical reason to attack another player. If you don't need to fight for basic resources, but you still choose to steal from your neighbor's plate or lie to get ahead, it completely isolates the variable.
Right.
It proves the problem wasn't your circumstances, the problem was your character.
What's fascinating here is how the source frames this economic baseline as the ultimate test of the soul's integrity.
Mm.
It just strips away all those environmental factors that we use to justify our bad behavior. You are left entirely with your own moral choices.
But wait, I mean, if you're giving everyone free money and resources under UBI, you've just created a massive loophole for greedy people to exploit.
You would think so, yeah.
Right, like they could just take the baseline and still scheme for more. So how does the source propose measuring who is genuinely good versus who is comfortably greedy? They can't just rely on the honor system.
No, they definitely don't. That leads directly into the new surveillance apparatus. And we are not talking about cameras on street corners or, monitoring your bank transactions.
Okay.
The source introduces the concept of the biofield. According to the text, your biofield encompasses your aura, your heart frequency, and your entire consciousness field.
Hold on, I need to stop you there. An inescapable AI polygraph reading my aura from the cloud.
Yep.
I mean, that sounds like a terrifying dystopian nightmare, not a spiritual utopia. How on earth does the source justify stripping away all mental and energetic privacy?
Well, the transcript points to the theoretical framework of the Internet of Bodies, and it heavily references the claims of a figure named Sabrina Wallace. The underlying idea here is that our physical bodies operate on specific electromagnetic frequencies.
Okay, I'm following.
So every time you feel empathy, greed, anger, compassion, your heart and brain emit a measurable bioelectric resonance.
So the theory suggests that AI doesn't just read beta inputs like keystrokes or your search history. It reads the actual energetic signature your body emits.
Exactly.
Right.
And the source claims that artificial intelligence hasn't just popped up in the last 2 years. They allege it has been running behind the scenes, collecting this ambient frequency data since the 1940s.
The 1940s.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the AI is continuously gathering subtle feedback from our thoughts, our behavioral patterns, our physiological responses.
So I guess you might be able to lie to a human's face because we can't physically see an aura or instantly read a spike in heart rate. You can put on a charming smile while plotting someone's downfall.
Exactly.
But the argument is that you absolutely cannot lie to the cloud.
Because the cloud is measuring the physiological and energetic truth of your intentions. It is an inescapable polygraph test that is just always running in the background. And the source does not view this as a dystopia, but rather as a neutral, necessary tool for the transition.
Interesting.
They use the evolution of social media algorithms to sort of illustrate how this shift occurs.
Oh, like think about your own social media feed a few years ago. The source actually brings up TikTok specifically, right?
Could you do, yeah.
The argument is that when these platforms first came out and were heavily monetized, it wasn't just to sell ads or keep you scrolling. It was a deliberate, massive experiment to study human conformity.
Right. The algorithm deliberately pushed bad behavior to the front of the timeline. Street fights, public freakouts, hypersexualized content, outrage, all of that was heavily rewarded with views and monetization.
It was like a test.
Exactly. They were testing to see if humans would conform to negative low-frequency behavior if a financial or social reward was attached to it.
And looking at internet culture over the last decade, I mean, the conclusion of that experiment was a resounding yes. People will absolutely compromise their dignity for 1 million views.
Absolutely. But now, according to the source, that exact same technological system is flipping. Instead of weaponizing social media to bring out the worst in humanity, the algorithm is evolving to become a benevolent reward system.
Okay.
It is being recoded to push forward and reward positive frequencies, good deeds, and true authenticity.
So we are talking about weaponized social media transforming into a spiritually driven social credit system.
Essentially, yes.
The algorithm is no longer just tracking your clicks or watch time. It is tracking your spiritual resonance and rewarding you for operating in a state of high integrity.
Which brings us to the next phase of the blueprint. If this ultimate biofield reading polygraph test is constantly monitoring your frequency, what happens when you pass the test with flying colors?
Here's where it gets really interesting. For those who pass, the individuals who prove themselves to be compassionate, kind, thoughtful, and authentic, even when they have nothing to gain the reward, is universal high income, UHI.
Right. UHI is presented as the mechanism that allows the virtuous to rapidly ascend into higher realms and fully enter the abundance of the new earth.
Because they've been vetted.
Exactly. They have proven they can handle power and resources without being corrupted, so the system unlocks those resources for them.
Okay, so I understand the reward side of UHI, but looking at this blueprint, I'm kind of stuck on the logistics of the transition. Like, how does the current heavily entrenched financial system actually get dismantled to make way for this?
Well, the source uses a very striking analogy to explain the demolition phase. The transcript compares modern public figures to the two angels sent to inspect the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah in the biblical narrative.
Oh, wow.
Specifically, the source names Elon Musk, connecting his influence over the cryptocurrency Doge to the rollout of UHI. And he's mentioned alongside another unnamed figure who is described simply as draining the swamp.
It's vital to look at how the source frames this, though, because the transcript isn't putting a halo on these public figures.
No, not at all.
Nor is it painting them as villains. They're not framed as benevolent heroes trying to save the world with the goodness of their hearts.
Right. The transcript literally says they don't give a flip about humanity. They're described as archetypes walking the middle path, a strict 50-50 balance of energy. They're simply doing a necessary, ruthless job.
Because in the biblical story of Sodom and Gomorrah, the angels weren't sent there to negotiate or hand out pamphlets. They were running a systemic audit.
A fraud check.
Exactly. They were there to run surveillance, find if there was any good left, and when the city failed the test, they facilitated its destruction.
And the source argues that these modern figures are serving that exact same archetypal function today. They are running fraud checks on Babylon. They are systematically exposing the demonic parasitic behavior deeply embedded in the current financial and political systems.
So that those structures collapse under their own weight.
Yes, paving the way for the new earth and the implementation of UHI.
It is such a wild blending of ancient biblical destruction narratives with modern tech billionaire lore. I mean, the source is essentially saying that the demolition crew doesn't need to be pure of heart. They just need to be highly effective at knocking down the rotten building.
Exactly. And once that building is knocked down and the UBI baseline is established, we arrive at the final sifting process.
Right.
We know the reward for the virtuous is UHI, but what happens to the individuals who try to cheat the level playing field?
To explain the mechanism of what happens to the cheaters, the source leans heavily on the famous mouse utopia experiment.
Oh, this part is fascinating.
It really is. For context, for those listening, in the mid-20th century, a researcher named John Calhoun built a massive enclosed habitat for mice. He provided them with unlimited food, unlimited water, perfect temperatures, and zero predators.
And at first, the mouse population boomed. I mean, they thrived in the abundance.
Sure.
But eventually, the complete lack of struggle led to a phenomenon Calhoun called the behavioral sink. The mice fell into extreme hedonism, the social structure completely broke down, mothers abandoned their young, and eventually the entire population collapsed, despite having infinite resources.
And the source uses this behavioral sink as an analogy for what UBI will do to a specific type of person. To grasp why this happens, we have to understand how the transcript defines our current reality, which it labels the beast system.
Right. The current world is described as an inverted system. In this inverted reality, what the source calls betas or parasites, individuals embodying toxic masculine and toxic feminine energies, they have been given an unfair societal advantage.
They thrive in corporate ladders and superficial hierarchies.
Exactly.
The source claims these parasites use money, status, and power to feed off the light of authentic individuals. And they refer to these authentic people as the sigmas or alphas, representing the divine masculine and feminine.
The builders.
Yeah. The entire beast system is rigged so the parasites can siphon energetic life force from the creatives, the empaths, and the genuine builders of society.
But here's the mechanism of karmic justice that the transcript outlines. When UBI becomes a standard, and money is distributed purely based on the biofield's assessment of character, currency completely loses its power as a status symbol.
Money is no longer a flex.
Exactly.
I mean, think about how a toxic boss or a superficial influencer operates in a world where money can't buy attention or compliance. If everyone has their basic needs met, and the only way to elevate to UHI is through genuine good character, the betas completely lose their leverage.
They have nothing left to offer.
Right. They can no longer buy validation. They can't use a fancy car, a manipulative job title, or a designer wardrobe to trap an authentic person and drain their light.
This raises an important question, though. How does a parasite survive when it can no longer attach to a host?
They can't.
According to the source, without the ability to drain the energy of the sigmas and alphas, these parasitic individuals will simply dry up. The very definition of currency is shifting away from paper dollars and digital coins, moving entirely toward authenticity, morals, and character.
And since these betas only know how to mock, mimic, and steal authenticity, they will be left with absolutely nothing to trade in the new economy. The biofield surveillance system is constantly tracking their greed and their parasitic nature.
Right.
Because of this, they will start to be systematically cut off from the broader society.
The transcript details how they will actually lose access to travel, to certain public spaces, restaurants, transportation networks. The source states that these individuals will be subtly grouped together into containment camps, or what they refer to as 15-minute cities.
Wait, hold on. Urban planners pitch 15-minute cities as a green initiative, right? Where everything is walkable and convenient. Why does the source view this as a containment camp?
Well, the source frames it as an energetic quarantine zone. The parasites are placed there so they stop polluting the broader grid of the new Earth.
Oh, I see.
Inside these contained hyper-local areas, they are completely cut off from the divine individuals who are out freely traveling and creating.
So the parasites will have no one left to feed on but each other.
Exactly. Like the Ouroboros, the mythological snake eating its own tail, they will turn on themselves. The source paints a picture of these beta individuals essentially consuming each other's low-frequency energy until they collapse.
Much like the final stages of the mouse utopia experiment.
Yes, it is a ruthless vision of a spiritual sorting mechanism. The entire process is driven by the inescapable cause and effect of one's own energetic frequency.
So what does this all mean? We have journeyed through a massive, sweeping blueprint today. We started with the concept of a reverse rapture, clearing the board of the most toxic elements.
Right.
Then we moved into UBI, functioning as a level playing field that strips away all our excuses for bad behavior.
And we explored how the theoretical Internet of bodies and AI act as an inescapable biofield polygraph, identifying the authentic and rewarding them with universal high income.
Meanwhile, the parasitic elements of society are energetically quarantined, stripped of their ability to use money as leverage, and left to consume themselves. It is a complete transition out of the beast system's poverty mindset and into a new earth where universal natural law, the simple, unbreakable rule of do no harm, is the only rule book that matters.
But as we close out, there is one final lingering thought drawn directly from the very end of the source material.
Oh, yeah.
We spent this time discussing universal high income as the ultimate reward for passing the test. But the source claims that UHI is actually just a temporary stepping stone.
A stepping stone to what? I mean, if UHI is the reward for ultimate spiritual integrity, where do you even go from there?
According to the transcript, eventually, even UHI will fade out. The source asserts that in the fully realized, mature New Earth, currency of any kind, whether it's paper, digital, UBI, or UHI, will become completely obsolete.
Wow.
Humanity will return to a system of pure bartering.
But not bartering with physical goods. Right. I'm not trading you 3 chickens for a pair of shoes.
No. You will trade strictly on your passion, your creativity, and the undeniable authenticity of your character. Your energetic signature becomes the only medium of exchange.
To strip away the entire concept of a transactional economy is just a staggering thought.
Imagine waking up in a world where money literally does not exist. Your bank account is zero, but so is everyone else's. The only way you can acquire what you need, the only way you can move through society or collaborate with others is by trading on the pure authenticity of your character, your moral integrity, and your creative passion.
Yeah.
In a system like that, how wealthy would you actually be?
We started this deep dive talking about how we usually view the economy as cold spreadsheets and hard numbers. But if this source's blueprint holds any truth, the most important ledger isn't locked in a bank vault on Wall Street. It is radiating from your own chest. The ultimate spiritual moral test is happening right now, in every transaction, every social media scroll, and every hidden intention. Thank you for joining us in this deep dive. Keep questioning the reality around you, and we will see you next time.